Poker Stories is an audio series that features casual interviews with some of the game's best players and personalities. Each episode highlights a well-known figure in the poker world and dives deep into their favorite tales, both on and off the feld.
That's right, it's time for another episode of Poker Stories, brought to you by Card Player, the Poker Authority. Once again, I'm your host, Julio Rodriguez. I want to give a special thanks to everyone who listened to our first two episodes with Jesse Sylvia and Jason Kuhn. This week, Matt Stout joined us on the show. Matt is a New Jersey native with a big personality, and that has made him a standout player both live and online for the past decade. He's got $3.5 million in live winnings, another $3.7 million won online. He's a poker coach, a brand ambassador for both the Seminole Hard Rock and Borgata, and he started the charity series of poker, which has raised more than $150,000 for worthy charities and causes. So as you can see, Matt is a good player and an even better dude, and it easily comes through in our conversation. Let's get right into it. Anyway, how you been, man?
Are we on air? Because I'll give you two different answers if it's just me and you talking.
No, we're officially on the air now.
All right, I'm doing great.
The truth comes out later in the podcast, I guess.
I mean, I've known you for several years, so
Yes.
if the mics are off, there's a lot more that I'll say.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll keep it to the public's perception of you only.
I mean, I'm still doing good, but,
Yeah.
you know, life isn't always peachy.
Yeah, of course. So we're here in Las Vegas in your home. You've been in Las Vegas for how long now? Almost a decade, right?
Yeah, 8 years. I moved here in 2008. Grew up in Jersey, and when I was 23, I had kind of gotten a little bored with the AC scene. Borgata hadn't built all of its tournaments up to what they are now, so like there wasn't that much action, especially for tournaments in AC. And like once I started building a bankroll, playing bigger, I was traveling a lot, and it just sort of made more sense for me to set up somewhere else.
Yeah, Vegas was the spot. Did you regret that in the years that followed?
It only took me 4 months to regret the decision. No, I love Vegas. No, actually, so in 2008, I moved out here, just like bought an apartment, was kind of deciding whether or not I wanted to stay here in the long term, and decided it was for me, at least for like this period of my life while I'm like building my career as a poker player. So I did decide to buy a house in 2010. And at first,
Decent time.
Yeah. Paul Waska and I were going to split the house because he bought a $965,000 house right after.
I remember we have a video of it on Card Player.
Right. So he bought that ridiculous house, and then the price plummeted. And he wasn't even there.
He didn't time it right.
He didn't time it right, and he also decided that Vegas wasn't really for him, and he wanted to keep the house, but he was in Colorado like literally 10 or 11 months a year at least. Like, he would come out for the World Series, come out for a couple big tournaments. But then it was really stupid because he had this huge empty house that no one was living in, and even when he would fly out to Vegas, he would crash on my couch in my little 2-bedroom apartment, and it was absurd.
Yeah.
So eventually we decided that I was going to like pay him a big down payment, pay him monthly, and we would just split the house 50-50. I got to take the master bedroom, and it was just like my house, and it was just like my buddy visiting a month or two a year. It was so ideal for me.
Yeah.
But then 6 months later, his fiance decided that she didn't want to keep the house, convinced him to sell it, so I bought my own house, the one we're sitting in now.
Mm-hmm.
But so that happened.
Which this house I would estimate is worth $6 million.
$65 million.
$65 million.
No. Julio's clearly being sarcastic because I'm like too nitty and just like bought like an okay house so that I'd be prepared for downswings instead of being all poker playerish about it and like balling out.
I disagree. I'm looking at a big screen TV projector.
Okay,
that's gotta be like 600 inches. It's big. What is that?
I just meant the house itself isn't that balling. I just like
I'm
I bought
sitting
one
on
of the
a
like the
solid
normal
gold chair
cookie
right
cutter. What?
I mean, don't get me wrong. The walls are a very stereotypical shade of khaki.
Yeah, anyone who's been to Vegas and been like off the strip kind of knows there's like a ton of these cookie cutter houses. They all look the same. I just bought one of them. I'm hiding out in the desert 8 miles from the strip, far enough away from the crazies. And I just like bought a like reasonably priced house and just decked it out. I have like huge L-shaped leather couch with double recliners and a chase, and like have a 150-inch projector screen. Like I made it comfy, like, but it's all about experience to me. Like I don't care about showing off. It's like,
So wait, how does an East Coaster like you fare on the West Coast? Because I was born and raised in South Florida, and I know there was a huge shock coming to the desert.
I needed this.
You needed it?
I grew up like way too stressed out, like an angry environment. I grew up 2 miles from Manhattan, so like I'm from Jersey, but I'm from like the like dirty Jersey. Like the town I grew up in, it borders Newark, Staten Island, Manhattan, and Jersey City.
Some of the most calmest places on earth.
Oh yeah, so it's really just like a very hustle and bustle, type A angry, like I don't know, like there's just too much testosterone, too much anger, too much unhappiness in general.
Were you too mellow for that environment, or did coming here mellow you out?
Oh no, I grew up in like a toxic, angry household that like made me that way. But then like I quickly realized like, hey, this isn't how I'm supposed to live life. I'm supposed to be a little more chill, relaxed. Like so that's why moving out west was like it was good for me. I needed to like lay back a little bit more, chill, and like not be so stressed all the time. And I'm still working on that now. Like I'm still an overachiever. I still like I'm always doing like 6 things at once, just never giving myself a break, and like never really patting myself back on my back too much for the accomplishments. Just like setting a new goal. And it's really bad. You really have to like relax and like be happy with what you've done at some point. I usually don't stop to do that
at
at
some
all.
point. Take a look around, assess your surroundings.
So moving out west was kind of like part of like a personal thing that I was trying to do, and like who I was, and just becoming like the more chill, goofy, happy-go-lucky person that like a lot of people in the live poker scene seem to know me as.
That seems to be your reputation.
I mean, I'm a goofball who's like
maybe.
always laughing. Like, no, I know plenty of people talk shit about me, and I love it.
No. Well, easily one of the most liked people. That's why I approached you to do one of the early episodes of this podcast.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Because you never know.
I know I'm disliked too.
Listen.
I love polarizing people.
No.
I like making people feel one way or another about me.
The poker world is full of a lot of decent people, but there's always at least a few people that have some negative story. But you truly are one of the people. I don't think anybody has anything terrible to say about. So.
Yeah,
maybe some ex-girlfriends or something, but
no, I'm friends with all my ex-girlfriends.
Yeah?
That's the funny thing. Actually, my fiance and I were talking about like how she actually thinks it's a good thing that I'm still friends with my ex-girlfriend. She doesn't get jealous about it. She's like, if they spent like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years with you, and they still want to see your face and be friends with you, that's got to be a good thing. That's got to say a lot about you as a person.
You're a good guy. So Bayonne, New Jersey.
Oh God, yes.
Bayonne, New Jersey.
It's quite a place.
And what was your deal like growing up there? What were you into? What was a young Matt Stout doing?
Young Matt Stout, like high school. We'll go straight to high school because a little more messed up before high school. I was I was like a super fat kid before high school. Like had no idea what I was. Had tons of angst. Just like grew up in a crazy environment.
Yeah.
But like when I turned 13, started high school, I was. In my freshman year, I was captain of the academic team, captain of the chess team, but I was also on the hockey team so that I wasn't too much of a nerd. And our hockey team was like the stars of the school because our football team was terrible, and we had our own ice rink, and like we actually had a shot at doing well. So it was weird. I was like a jock, nerd, skater, misfit kid. I don't even know how to describe it. I was kind of like dabbling in all circles, just like
social butterfly.
Not really, though. I don't know. I guess you could say that, but in a weird way.
You had a connection to every clique.
I suppose. It was just, it was the early business entrepreneur.
The only ones you missed were probably
networking.
like the school band clique. You probably missed that one.
I skipped that.
The drama kids.
Actually, no. I was in theater class
Okay.
and was friends with some of them.
There
so,
you go.
Bad read. Like, I really just, I did it all,
Glee
buddy.
Club.
I did not do Glee Club, but
Yeah.
I was doing some charity stuff even in high school.
Oh, there you
So I
go.
was in that kind of group too.
Well, I seem to
Well,
remember you telling me a story about you left college by accident.
yeah, that's it's kind of a
Because
weird
I
story.
mean, you're Matt Stout. You're the studious, hardworking overachiever. So it must have been clearly an
was weird.
accident that led to you leaving school.
It was weird. I'll try to sum it up best I can. I was from the time I was 19. All right. I was doing a double major in business and psychology, so I had to do two.
As one does.
I mean, I didn't know it. I was majoring in poker. It was perfect. Business and psychology. Like, what better combo if you were double majoring, getting ready for a poker career? Like, what else would you take?
Maybe like a minor in architecture if you want to build some cool chip towers or something.
All right. So anyway, so I'm in my first of 2 senior years when I turned 21. I had to do one for business, one for psych, and I got really good grades at like a fairly tough state school. And
Rutgers.
no, I'm gonna kill you. It's the College of New Jersey. Rutgers will accept anybody. TCNJ was like a fairly selective,
You're
like
losing
small
fans
liberal
right
arts
now.
school. Anyway.
Somebody just booed loudly in their car.
Someone just
listening to
turned
this.
off the podcast altogether. So basically, what happened was I was in the middle of my first of 2 senior years. I turned 21. I spent my entire winter break in Atlantic City. I actually turned 21 in the middle of finals week, and I was going an hour and a half back and forth to Atlantic City, like studying at the table while grinding 1-2 no limit. That's how much of a degen I was. And still did well in all my finals. Went to Atlantic City for the entire winter break. Grinded up like an AK roll from being pretty much Bosto. Got back to school like 5-6 weeks later after winter break was over. And they told me that I was missing a signature or a form for my student loan paperwork, and that because I hadn't paid and because I didn't answer the letter they sent to my parents' house, instead of calling my cell phone, which they had the number to, they had unregistered me from all my classes.
Yeah.
And that the only way to get signed back in was to have the dean of the business school sign me back in. So I had a meeting with him like after I just handed over half my bankroll in cash, trying to get signed back into my classes so that half of the previous semester's tuition was paid or whatever. I was supposed to have a meeting with the dean of the business school, the only guy who could sign me back in. I went and he wasn't there. He just and I didn't go back an hour or two later like I should have, and I came back the next day instead, and they were like, "Oh, he's on vacation," and I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Yeah.
So I
It's not
begged
gonna
to
work
have
out.
someone else that could sign me back in or get in touch while he was on vacation. It just got shut down, and I decided to take a semester off. I took like the $4,000 I had left, went back to Atlantic City, turned it into like $70,000 within 5 weeks or so.
Did they ever ship you back your half of the tuition?
No, it was owed. It was
Oh, it was
it was
owed,
a
okay.
semester it was from the previous semester.
Got it.
So yeah, that was still kind of a sunk cost.
Yeah. And
Of
after
course, I
that-
would have financed it had I known that it was going to go that way. I should have gone back and been like, now that you haven't signed me back in, I want that cash back. I didn't even really think about it. I was just like, well,
Yeah.
I went from being broke to having an 8K roll in 5 weeks. We can go hustle and make it back.
So was that the moment when you ran it up? When you were just like, I could do this?
So that was January 06. And
The
that
boom
was-
times.
yeah, poker was as good as it's gonna get ever at that point, basically. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a second boom, but that was huge. So I went back to Atlantic City, kind of grinded a bunch of 1-2, some daily tournaments around AC, the weekly 300 at Taj on Saturdays, and I final tabled that back-to-back weeks to get my roll up to like 10, 11K. And then I went and played the World Series of Poker circuit events at Caesars in early March of 2006.
In Vegas or Caesars?
Caesars Atlantic City,
Atlantic
sorry.
City.
And I busted out of like the first 300, and then I played a 75 sit and go to get into the 560, 550, whatever it was. And I ended up final tabling that and chopping it 5 ways with Matt Glantz and 3 other guys for $34,000. and that was sort of like the defining point that really started my career.
Then you're off and running.
Yeah, needless to say, we went from like a 10K roll to a 44K roll that day, and things were good.
Yeah.
And then I won 2 back-to-back seats into the 10K main event, 200 rebuys, and the only 2 satellites they had. So I sold one to Nick Frangos and played the other seat, just free rolling in my first day. Yeah, Nick Frangos. That's an old school AC reference. Nicky, buddy.
Nicky. Wow.
Yeah.
What happened to Nick?
I don't know. I still see him around grinding cash in Atlantic City from time to time. I think he's just like grinds mixed game cash, which is why you don't hear about him. I don't think he plays tournaments at all.
He had a big ESPN episode one time, didn't he?
Yeah, one of the.
I can't remember if it was the series or if it was maybe the USPC.
It was both. He made a couple of like those prelim and stud final tables when they were still showing final table prelims at the World Series.
Okay.
And he also had like a whole feature about him on the U.S. Poker Championships at the Taj because he was like one of the biggest name Atlantic City players at that point.
I remember.
So they had him like walking on the beach in Atlantic City chatting about life.
Well, you mentioned, this brings me to one of my first questions, is your first big life tournament. You mentioned you won the seats into the 10K. What was that like, your first 10K?
I punted 100 bigs with jacks against queens. That was just like, I still haven't forgiven myself for it.
Really?
Because that's how I am, you know. It's literally...
Was it that obvious? Because remember, you're looking at it through 2016 or 2017 colored glasses. And what we know about poker now...
But that's the opposite. Like, back then, it was way worse to get 100 bigs in this spot. Back then, people didn't 4-bet without queens plus, and the guy had queens. And I was lucky he had queens. Before one talking against queens.
He probably didn't even like it.
No, he didn't.
He was like, this is
he 4-bet me, and then I ripped, and he was like, ugh, blah, sigh, and called with queens. And I'm like, all right. Jumping off the parking garage.
Was it the first level, or were you deep or something?
It was 50 and 100, so it it was second level.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled with myself. Deep. It was 10K starting stacks and 10Ks back then. That's how they did.
Yeah. Dollar for dollar. Yeah, you felt like you actually lost $10,000.
Yeah.
So when
because I kind of did.
When did you settle in to the lifestyle of putting up 10Ks with regularity?
That wasn't really an issue because less than a year later, I started getting staked by Cliff Josephy.
Who's that?
You're hilarious.
Never heard of him.
Johnny Backs. So even though
what's he done lately? Was he here before the final table?
No. Well, he was here for a bit. They were doing sims at Jay Farber's house.
Jay Farber, okay. Because I remember you telling me you used to run simulations for somebody here for the World Series, right?
Yeah, we've done it a couple times. We did coaching for Amir Lehavat. We ran all the simulations at my house. Zach Elwood came and videoed him, was doing all kinds of poker tell stuff. We had a lot of really good local players who were here to kind of mimic his opponents. We started with the actual stack sizes that they would have at the final table and just tried to sort of simulate it as best we can to kind of see what dynamics will come up, what to expect at the final table, and just kind of get them a little more comfortable and ready. It's like almost as much of a psychological thing as anything, just kind of so that they don't go in feeling nervous, that they feel like they've talked through a lot of the hands, talked through a lot of the reads and tendencies of their opponents with a whole group of 8 or 9 of the best players in Vegas. So it really puts them in a position where they're really comfortable and because when that many really good poker minds come together and discuss something, we're almost always going to come to a consensus within one hand on a range. It's okay, well, he's definitely going to go with ace queen here, and he's probably going to go with ace jack, not going with ace 10. It's everyone will be able to narrow things down so specifically that it really puts them in a position where they feel like they have a good grasp on what every player at the table is capable of, what we expect from them.
And it's worked out.
Yeah, it's worked out. It worked out. Amir took 3rd place, and then 2 years later we did the same thing for Neil Blumenfeld when he made the final table. And Neil would talk more crap on himself than I would here, but I will say that Neil was expected to be the worst player at the final table based on some of the hands that he played during the coverage. So we helped dissect his game a lot. Amir was like the lead coach for that, and then because he's really close friends with Neil, and Neil knew how much it helped Amir, so Neil had Amir put it together for him, and then Tom Marchese and I ended up being like the secondary lead coaches because we ended up doing
these names I'm not familiar with.
Again, like these nobodies. I'm sorry that I keep bringing up all these obscure names.
D-list, maybe.
D-list, for sure. So, Marchese and I, after we did all the simulations, took Neil. We actually had Neil over here on this very table that we're that we're doing the podcast from.
I still see his imprint.
Yeah, I have my fedora upstairs, too.
Oh, he gave you a fedora?
He gave me a fedora. So, Tom and I did a lot of like ICM work with him just to help him narrow down the math, because the simulations we didn't do as much detail into the math side of everything, and he wasn't as comfortable with that.
And he got coolered or bad beated out or something like that? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Three-handed, he got like deuces against Joe McKeon's queens, and was like really short. It was like him and Josh Beckley were like the short stacks against McKeon, who had all the chips.
I remember correctly. Oh, yeah, okay.
But throughout that final table, he had played really, really well. Like, and we had kept it a secret who had coached him. So eventually, during like the day 2 coverage or late in the day, I think Neil let Kara Scott and Norman Chad start talking about who the coaches were. So we got a lot of coverage and a lot of name drops from that. It was kind of fun because everyone had been talking on Twitter about how much better Neil Blumenfeld was playing and wondering who coached him, and I was just sitting there. And
your ego was just growing.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, it was pretty awesome. Like I wasn't like the main coach, but it was like the three of us were kind of like the team that were more involved than everyone else. But like also everyone who, like I said, everyone who does the simulations, it's like a pretty big group, but they all like do their part. Everyone kind of gives their 2 cents. Everyone gives some like really good counterpoints about how people may play and what they think about different reads on different players. But
back to your 10Ks when you got comfortable. When you got comfortable just playing the circuit.
I mean, I was comfortable pretty quickly. It was still really easy back then. Like even in 10Ks, there were a lot of really, really clueless players who were just, if you had any concept of strategy. And I'd been like a gamer my whole life, video games, like card games,
captain
board
of the chess
games.
Team.
Yeah, I've always been pretty nerdy. So when I found a way that I could use my nerdiness for profit, I was like, let's go. Julio just turned around to stare at my vast collection of board games, poker chips, Jenga, Cards Against Humanity.
It's not
There's like
biggest
it
pile
continues
I've
up.
ever seen.
No, dude, it continues upstairs.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't want to be embarrassed with how many.
Yeah.
Like when it's stacked up to the ceiling,
This is for company. This pile.
Yeah, this is like pretending that we only play Monopoly, Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, these are not super advanced games. I bet the hardcore gaming stuff is upstairs.
Yeah. I'm propping up with my mic with Trivial Pursuit. I'm such a nerd. Like I try to hide it by like shaving my head and having a goatee and like looking tough, but yeah, like it doesn't work. People figure it out pretty quickly. You have like an 8-minute conversation with me, like this kid's a dork, and I'm like,
he just gets so excitable.
So happy to be a dork. Like I'm fine with it.
Just bring up any topic you have a semi interest in, and you're off and running. So hey, that's a good quality to have. So now let's talk about heartache. The worst bad beat you ever put on anybody.
Well, that's not heartache for me. That's a good beat. I call those good beats.
Yeah, but somebody else went home and cried over it, I hope.
It's funny, like I can think of like random hands where I put like a really statistically bad beat on somebody.
Yeah, those are fun too. You ever had a perfect?
Yeah, like the other day, like...
The other day, yeah. You mean this week?
Yeah, I was playing like a Venetian 400 or something. And this guy... I had been 3-betting this guy a ton. And he was on the button. He opened, like 35 bigs. And I had ace-10 of clubs in the small blind. And so... I decided because of the dynamic, because I expected him to get pretty out of line 4-betting. I just decided to 3-bet and get it in, even though that's not normally my line here. And I 3-bet and got it in. No, I just 3-bet small.
And then called off.
Called off.
Yeah.
He had ace-jack, and the flop came jack 4-4 rainbow. I make it the flush.
Okay.
Just stuff like that. But honestly,
That's not perfect, by the way. That's runner, but that's not perfect.
I've hit perfect. Not like the absolute 989 to 1 running 2 exact cards, but like hitting 2 out of 3 where you have to hit your kicker twice. I'm sure I've done stuff like that, especially online.
Yeah. Or like if you turn open-ended straight flush, so you pick up 2 outs.
Yeah, like you have ace 9 against ace king on ace king deuce, and you have to hit 9-9 to actually win and scoop. Like I've probably hit. I'm sure I've hit hands like that, like online and stuff. But I'm trying to think of like a really bad beat I've put on someone for a lot of equity, because obviously, like the ones that really matter are when you're deep in a big event for 6 figures and just like put some ridiculous beat on somebody. But honestly, I'm really having trouble remembering like when I've hit like really, really sick bad beats in those spots.
I mean,
I've got to hit like
stories
3 to
the other
1,
way,
4 to
right?
1 dog, but like none of like the crazy like 5%, 2%. Like I'm really trying to think now, like thinking through like each one of my big 6-figure scores, trying to think of hands that propelled me to it, and like, I mean, there's been times where I get it in pair under pair and hit, and like I forget about that pretty quickly. But I'm really trying to think of some absurd beat in a big 6-figure equity pot, and I'm coming up with nothing. I can tell you the ones I lost.
Conscience is clear then.
Yeah, right.
If anything, you're owed.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna put a nasty beat on someone soon.
I'm that guy that's like, I run so bad. When am I gonna run good?
When am I gonna get my one time?
No, but it's funny. It's like exactly like Mikey McDermott said in Rounders. He's like, in Confessions of Winning Poker Player, Jack King said, few players recall big pots they've won, strange as it seems, but every player can remember with remarkable accuracy the outstanding tough beats of their career. And like,
well, that's why we ask it that way, because it's better. You know, everyone's got their bad beat story loaded up, you know.
Yeah, I know. And like, I hate telling bad beat stories. It's not really like, I do my best to not do it ever and make fun of people in the most entertaining ways possible when they tell me bad beat stories.
All right, then we'll switch gears and you can tell me about the biggest pot you've ever won or lost. Tournament, cash game, doesn't matter. Could be big emotionally, could be big monetarily.
Yeah, near the bubble of the Bellagio 25K main event that David Williams ended up winning. So I think it was 2008, 2009.
Festa?
No, like the 25K, the championship.
Oh, okay, WPT championship.
Faraz Jaka and I were like the 2 chip leaders of the tournament on the bubble, and he was literally opening like 90+% of hands, going ballistic. And I flatted him from the small blind against hijack with king queen of clubs. Comes 10-9 deuce. We both have over 2 million at 816,000 to start this hand. Flops 10-9 deuce with 1 club. I check call the turn.
Did he have you covered or did you have him covered?
He had me covered.
See, don't they ever teach you not to mess with the chip leader on the money bubble?
Julio, can I see you outside for a second? Oh no, but it was like, that's why I didn't 3-bet him, because that's all it comes down to. It's like,
exactly.
I'm not allowed to fold this hand pre-flop against someone who's opening almost literally any 2.
Exactly.
This was shortly after Faraz had 5-bet jammed with 9-3 offsuit against 2 aces and gotten there to bust Heather Sue Mercer like near the bubble.
Now I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember this day.
Yeah.
I remember she was not happy.
She took it like a fucking champ.
Well,
she just smiled, was like, looked stunned, but like smiled in a shocked way and said, "Good luck, everybody," and walked out.
She didn't flip a table, but she didn't look happy. That's what I'm saying.
So I think 18 paid, and she busted 20th. There are 19 left when this hand happens. And I turned the nuts with king queen on a 10-9 deuce jack board.
Wait, did it go check on the flop?
No, I check called. I check call and turn the nuts. I check raise like 150 to 380K. He calls, and the river is a jack.
Ugh.
And I check call 1 million against jack 9 for a rivered boat. So it's not like that's statistically unlikely, but that like as far as the dynamic when he was like literally going so nuts that he's 5-bet jamming 9-3 offsuit against 2 aces. It was pretty disgusting.
Did you call off your whole stack?
No.
Oh, okay.
I still cashed. I still I think I had like $250,000 or $300K left after the hand. Squeezed into the money, busted 17th after I lost a flip to Williams for like $500,000 at 816.
When he bets the river there, like what are you beating? Aces? Kings, right?
He's not betting those.
I'm just saying out of his value hands. I wasn't there. You could fill me in.
Do you just look at Faraz Jocko when he bombs a
I'm
river and go, well, Faraz always has value hands?
No, I'm
okay.
narrowing down the top part of the range.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are times when he's betting with bluffs and trip jacks and things
right.
like
Ace
that.
Jack would do it. King Jack would do it.
Yeah.
Queen Jack.
Can I see you outside?
Listen, you got to think of both sides of each hand. Listen, clearly it's haunted you for quite some time. So.
Yeah, and then in 2009, Sohail Shamsuddin put a beat on me that kept me backed for a few more years. Three-handed in WPT Foxwoods when the payout structures were still crazy steep. It was $935K for first, $465 for second, and $265 for third. And I was
That's absurd.
And I was $150K in makeup.
Oh.
So my payout structure was like 50, 150, 375.
Yeah.
So I get three-handed. We have equal stacks for the most part. I open the button with 6-5 of hearts. Sohail defends from the big. Flop is king, king, 4 with 2 hearts. He leads. He leads small. And I'm pretty sure he has a big hand, so I just call. And turns a 3 of hearts, so I make a flush and have an open-ended straight flush draw. He leads again. I raise. He rips, and I call. Or no, I think he check ripped. Either way, we get in on the turn. He has trip kings with no flush draw, and he rivers a boat for.
Did the board pair or did he hit his kicker?
He hit his kicker.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Somehow that's worse.
When
they hit their kicker.
Somehow it's worse. Actually, it's the same, but whatever.
Statistically, it's the same, but somehow it's worse.
Yeah, so whatever. Those were like the two that were in like the 300, 400, 500K range.
Yeah.
That, like, you'll never forget.
Yeah.
But I'm honestly trying to think of like a nasty beat I've put on someone for that much equity. And I'm having trouble coming up.
Again, you're owed.
Yeah, it's just biases. It's just me trying to like convince myself that I'm good at poker. Like I always get it in good, and sometimes I lose, but sometimes I hold, and then I make top 3.
If as long as you don't catch yourself saying Phil's quote, if luck weren't involved, I'd win every time.
Can we just not talk about Helmuth?
No, he comes up on every podcast.
That's unfortunate. I'm going to go ahead and never listen to your podcast then.
Oh, I was kidding.
Except maybe my own
we can just
episode,
skip
because,
over
I'm
this.
a huge egomaniac and narcissist.
Yeah, you got to. And then make all your friends and family listen as well. And
oh, yeah.
that'll get us to our 50 viewers, I think.
You're ambitious. God damn. You really think you have a shot at 50? How many of them are going to be you listening on different devices at the same time?
Man.
Like 7, right?
I don't know. How long do you have to listen before you get credit for the listen? Do you
You
have to
would
listen
know
to the
that.
whole thing, or just like 2 seconds of it? Can I just keep hitting refresh?
You could do that. That seems reasonable.
I would never do that.
Sure you would.
I never.
Sure you
We
would.
definitely don't pay people to do that at the office.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Let's talk about what's your best degen story, but outside of poker? Because these always say a lot about the type of person you are.
Okay.
Not to put any pressure on you.
No, I don't do that much gambling, which is kind of sad. It's like when I first started playing poker.
No high stakes Monopoly.
Oh, I mean that anything I think I have an edge in. Like I've played €1,000 heads up game of Monopoly before.
Okay.
But I mean, I wouldn't play that big against most people willing to play for €1,000 a game, because that was when the euro actually had value too. So that was like I basically played a $1,400 game of Monopoly.
Yeah.
But that guy, like, he didn't even realize that when you sell back houses that you only get half the cash back. So it took him like...
What a noob.
He was stuck like 4K to me before he went, wait, I don't get the full value of the... So he was like, I don't get the full value of the house back? That's bullshit. So he would
It's like
sell
when you
all
see
of his
somebody in
house.
poker count it straight on their fingers.
Oh, yeah, it's great. So he would like sell all of his houses on one side of the board if he was low on cash as I passed that part and buy new houses on the other side of the board. And I just had to try not to laugh because I was like, I was friendly with the kid. Like, he's a Dutch poker.
Say his name so he's embarrassed.
Raza 14. He was like a legendary high stakes psychopath player. He like had a lot of good results, played well, but like definitely is like a little nuts and kind of an awesome human. But but we were playing in person. I was staying at his apartment in Amsterdam, and we were playing in person, passing the app back and like the iPad back.
Was he
and
letting
forth.
you stay there for free?
Yeah.
And you were taking his money?
Yeah, but then I would buy him dinner and yada yada yada. I always take care of the people I stay with. But he's the one that kept upping the bets. So it was like we started out playing friendly €100 a game matches, and then I realized how bad he was, and I almost felt bad playing €100 a game. And then he insisted on upping the stakes as he got more and more stuck, trying to get unstuck.
In Monopoly.
In Monopoly.
Did you guys venture into any other games?
No, I was just going to play as much Monopoly as I ever could with him.
Right, so you don't consider this a degenerate story because
No, I still
you
have
an
my
edge.
degen story, actually.
It's not really gambling if you have the edge.
I put myself in a spot where I probably didn't have the edge, but still came out smelling like a rose as usual.
No, you're due. Remember, we got to keep feeding.
Oh
that
yeah,
man.
I'm due. I'm unlucky. I never get lucky.
Yeah.
I need to start getting lucky because I never do. So
Phrasing.
this is a fairly degen story because it's kind of an absurd thing to bet on, I guess. Asher Kniff, John Bornstein, and I were hanging out at the bar at
All
Hard
East
Rock.
Coasters.
Yeah, it's a very
Hardcore
East
Coaster.
Coast story, and we were on the East Coast at Hard Rock,
Eating
Hollywood.
hoagies.
Definitely hoagies. No, we were just getting hammered at the bar, and that was right before EPT Barcelona, and I was about to fly from Miami to Barcelona 2 days later. We were done with the tournament, so all the focus on like what we're doing next, blah blah blah. We start talking about Europe, Barcelona, Amsterdam, Prague, and Bornstein seemed like really, really excited and wanted to come with me. Was thinking about booking a flight, but then he went away to go to the bar for a second, and Asher, who's one of John's best friends, turns to me and goes, "You know he's never coming to Europe, right?" Like, yeah, no shot.
Yeah.
Like, definitely not occurring. And I had to weigh the fact that I know Asher knows John a lot better than I do. I had to weigh that against the fact that John seemed really, really, really excited about this idea.
Yeah.
And having someone who'd been to Amsterdam 7 times, like knows his way around Europe to some extent. He wanted to have me with him, just to kind of show him around, be his guide. So I was like, man, I really feel like John's coming. And
Side note, have you considered that as a second career?
no.
An American tour guide in Amsterdam?
Can we move on?
Go ahead.
So, this ends up turning into a question of how much, like, what kind of price Asher will lay me on it, because I know I can get a price on this with how sure Asher seems.
Wait, so you're betting on whether he'll go?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
We're literally just betting if John Bornstein is going to show up and meet up with me in Amsterdam. That's it.
Okay.
Like, will he arrive in Amsterdam while I'm there? Mm-hmm. Can I get a picture with John Bornstein in Amsterdam and send it to Asher?
Okay.
So we start trying to figure out the line, and I talk to John and ask him what line I should be getting.
Oh man.
John tells me that like 2.5 seems fair.
Oh man.
This is against his best friend too.
Oh my god.
And then I end up booking the bet with Asher at 2.25 to 1, my 500 to his 11.25.
That he shows up.
Yeah. So
even
if
Jonathan is saying he's a long shot.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I decided to bet it anyway.
The source told you it's not looking good.
He said 2.5. I'm drunk and want to gamble. I thought 2.25 was good enough because I figured that I would be persuasive going forward.
Are you allowed to influence it?
The thing is, the terms of the bet with Asher, even though we had talked a lot about it at the bar, was that I couldn't tell John that the bet was booked, so I never did. But John knew.
Yeah.
Like I tried to play it off and like not say anything about the bet being booked, but like when I'm like John's also like anyone who knows John Borenstein knows that he's just like the quintessential poker player, just kind of wandering, vagrant, does everything last minute, like doesn't. I don't even think he has a credit card. Doesn't do anything for himself. Just like it reminds me like a week ago I was at Hard Rock Tampa and I got a text from Zoe. He's like, hang on, it's going to be a few minutes before I come meet you. I have to walk John Borenstein to the Lost and Found and show him where it is. So, like, I died laughing because that's how John is. So, basically, I'm acting as John's, like, John's travel. I don't even remember what those things are called anymore. The people who book travel, like travel agent. Yeah, those don't exist anymore, so they're like slipping out of my vocabulary. Yeah. I was basically John's travel agent for the whole thing. Have him like sending me PayPal, and I'm like getting all of his info and booking his flight for him.
Oh man.
So, I mean, John knew that the bet was booked, but I didn't break the terms. I never told him the bet was booked. But John was like, come on, you guys were talking all about it. Like,
yeah, and then
it's pretty obvious.
Unfortunately, Asher's never recovered and has never run good again.
Yeah. Well, no, this is after Asher beat me heads up for the opening event and then won the 15K WPT. And it helped me feel less like I like had been crushed by one of like the Borgata regs with no big results. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, at least he ran like God and won the 15K right after.
He ran like God to get into it.
Yeah.
And then won it.
I'm not going to get into that whole story, but he called, like, Asher called me after he misclick registered that $1,500 satellite, like, asking me if I could, because I'm sponsored by Borgata. He's like, oh, like, is there a way I can unreg? Like, you're already seated anteing, playing hands. Like, you want me to call the programmers and have them take your stack out of play and refund you? Like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
So I told him that if he won the seat, I would try to buy it from him, but then Party wouldn't let that happen, and so Asher ended up getting stuck playing the 15K, missing a family trip to Europe, and his mom was really mad at him until he won it for over $1 million. But anyway, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, but at least I got $1,125 of Asher's money back after that when he had to pay me for John showing up in Amsterdam, which he did.
Nice little trip rebate.
Yeah, that was fun.
So, rapid fire time. What's your favorite thing about being a poker pro?
Freedom. What else could I say? Like, you just... there's other things where if I went back to school, grad school, worked really hard at a career, I could make way more money than I could make at poker, and I don't really want to. Honestly, like, I could...
You don't want to be a slave to 9 to 5.
It's not even necessarily that. I could become a day trader and do it myself. It just seems more boring to me than, like, playing poker. There's a lot of ways that I'm interested in that I could make a lot of money, but I would have less freedom, even if it was owning the kind of store or restaurant that I want to own. I'm going to be tied down a lot more than I am now. I have the freedom to wake up one day and be like, I was supposed to play today, but I'm not. I'm going to sit around the house and do whatever I want and play with my dogs and go work out. And it's really nice to just have that, because even people who make millions of dollars a year don't have that kind of freedom. A couple of my students are hedge fund managers and traders and stuff, and while they're making millions and millions of dollars a year, they're not that happy with it. They want to play poker a lot more. Like, all they want to do is squeeze in these trips to Borgata, to Hard Rock, come play Bay 101, come play LAPC. And a lot of times they're not able to, so we're like group texting, they're asking me if I'm going to be at different events, and I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. And then like they text me back like a week later, like, oh, I can't make it. Like, and it's really disappointing for them. And like, I just kind of get to do whatever the hell I want. So,
but is it poker a job for you?
Yes.
Does it feel like a job to you?
I don't let it feel too much like a job. I limit my hours more. I probably, like, early in my career, I would literally average 70 hours a week, just because I was out of my mind, wanted to build my bankroll, wanted to learn as much as I could, and was sort of burning myself out. And I would say I've kind of like gradually decreased over the years to the point where I'd probably play 30 hours a week now, maybe a little bit less. Especially because I have a lot of other interests now. I spend a lot of time doing one-on-one coaching with students. I'm going to start running in-person coaching seminars at Borgata and probably at Hard Rock starting in April. And I also do a decent amount of work with BorgataPoker.com on like their promotions, the structures of their tournaments, the schedules, all of it. So I have, and obviously with the charity series of poker, I'm running 3 charity poker tournaments a year at Hard Rock, Borgata, and Planet Hollywood in Vegas, and we're going to expand probably, potentially start running one at Best
Well, I want
Bet
to talk about
Jacksonville.
that since you brought it up, because I don't. How did it get started? Why is it a thing in the world that exists?
Okay, I guess yeah, we can move on because that was sort of the end of my answer to the last question.
Sorry,
so yeah, no,
we can
I
circle
spend
back.
but no, I do. That's why I have 10 to 15 hours a week that I end up devoting to other things. So it still fills in the gap of me playing 25, 30 hours a week, but still having 40 hours a week that I'm spending on all of my interests and the things I'm working on. The charity series of poker, I started doing a little bit of charity stuff in high school, but not much. And my older brother, who's 2 years older than me, was always the biggest positive influence in my life. And he, even though we kind of grew up in a toxic environment, lower middle class, no one in my family had been to college except my dad, who dropped out after a semester. He got into Johns Hopkins, and my parents found a way to make it work financially and everything.
Your older brother did.
Yeah. So after I had been kind of slacking my first 2 years of high school, spending too much of my time as misfit skater kid, not really caring that much. I'm busy chasing girls, didn't really want to do my homework.
I'm picturing you in some Airwalks or some Vans sneakers.
Yes.
Doing kickflips.
Jinkos, bro.
Jinkos.
Got the Jinkos.
Oh,
wow, that was the Jinko time.
with the big pipe legs.
Oh yeah. I thought I was so cool. It was
You
ridiculous.
were, man.
Nah,
Don't let
it's
anybody
unlikely
tell
at
you
best.
differently.
Unlikely at best. So I kind of had this sort of realization that I was going to look like an idiot going to community college or not getting into college. My brother was one step below Ivy League now. So the competitive rivalry, the sibling rivalry sort of kicked in, got me a little more focused on school, kind of turned my life around a little bit. And then my brother was, during my senior year of high school, he was the president of Johns Hopkins Habitat for Humanity chapter. And I was down there one time, saw Sandtown, Baltimore, which is a really, really rough area. And that's where they were working on building houses and restoring houses. So
It's also where they shot The Wire.
Yeah. Can I continue? So the recurring themes of this episode are: can I see you outside, and can I continue? Yes, it is where they shot The Wire. I haven't finished watching that show yet, so that's not why. My mind didn't go there, but I'm sure it will once I finally get around to watching it.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, that's not what I've heard from anyone who's ever watched The Wire. So stop trolling me, Julio Rodriguez. Just stop it right now.
So your superstar brother is
my brother is pretty awesome. So he, seeing what he was doing with Habitat down there, got me interested in it and made me start thinking more about giving back, especially because we didn't grow up in a great situation or economically or otherwise. So it was just something where I felt really fortunate to have gotten as far as I have and wanted to be able to give back. So it sort of started in college. I became the vice president of my college's Habitat for Humanity chapter. I ran a $10 rebuy tournament, which was probably illegal after I got some prizes donated from local business. And I just hustled my way to raising $1,000 or a little under $1,000 for my campus chapter. And we had a blast doing it. I was that was my first time being a TD, running up and down the stairs in a in a dorm where it was a bunch of lounges that are in this floor, all stacked on top of each other. I had to keep running back and forth to keep balancing tables and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
It was nuts. But I did that because I didn't want to have to go through all the red tape of running it somewhere else on campus where we might get shot down. I basically had an advisor to Habitat kind of say, yeah, you can get away with doing it. Try to do it in the dorm so that we don't have
What's
to
somebody gonna do? Come in and be
right.
oh,
So,
look at this guy trying to raise money for housing.
How dare he?
Ugh.
No,
arrest
but
him
I mean,
immediately.
it's still gambling on campus,
Yeah.
man. Like I was 19. Like, I think I was 18 or 19 doing this. I wasn't
Sorry,
even
sir.
21.
It's
So
illegal for 19-year-olds to care. You're going to jail.
it was more getting at the underage gambling thing.
I understand. I'm just saying the hypocrisy that would be involved.
I get it, but
So you start. So
that was a blast, kind of, and throughout college I was involved with a lot of charity stuff, and then when I started playing poker for a living, I mean, it's amazing. We have a lot of freedom. I've made good money, but I also just like kind of felt bored with it and empty. Like, just like we're not serving any useful function in society. There's people like cleaning toilets in the Walmart bathroom that are serving way more of a useful purpose to society. Like, we could all drop off the face of the earth. No one's going to give a shit. Nothing's going to change. Like,
right.
We're helping to employ the people who run the poker rooms because there's one more ass in the chair, and we're really not doing much. So it was something that made me feel like
job needs to do something.
Yeah,
because
but
you could also do something in your personal life.
Right. That's why I have the CSOP.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my plan when I started playing poker for a living, was to eventually partner up with some casinos and run some of these events. And it was something that I planned on doing a lot earlier, but then back to the house story, I ended up buying this house in December 2010, and while it was a perfect time in the market to do it, it was 4 months before Black Friday. And my plan was to settle down here, travel a lot less, play all the Vegas events, play online from home, and then just travel 3 months a year maybe or less. And that plan went out the window pretty quickly when Black Friday hit and I moved to Costa Rica.
Did you call your realtor and get a refund? And explain calmly?
Can I continue? You're the best, Julio.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
the
don't think
first
a
person
Comec's
that's ever
money.
said that to me. Charity series of poker.
So yeah, I was gonna start it like after I bought this house, settled down, 2011, 2012-ish. I was gonna get it rolling, but then I had to move outside the country to be able to continue to play online poker for a living. So threw a little wrench in the works, and I ended up putting it off until 2014 when I sort of started to settle back down in the United States and stopped living outside the U.S. for such a big chunk of the year. Because I was in a relationship. She was in law school in the U.S., so it just made it so that if I wanted to see her, I kind of had to travel the U.S. circuit and then be home from time to time. So that was one of the reasons that I finally got it going in 2014. We've run 8 charity poker tournaments, about to complete our 3rd season the end of this month, January 28th at Borgata. We have a $220 turbo event the night before the WPT main event. And the first 8 events have raised right around $150,000 for
That's awesome.
food banks, Habitat for Humanity, and Brad Garrett's foundation, which provides financial assistance to the families with terminally ill children.
Brad Garrett, the poker player.
Yes, poker pro Brad Garrett.
I always like talking to Brad. He's great.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like it's great to have him at our charity events too, because he's the kind of guy where you just hand him the mic and tell him to go, and everyone's going to be laughing their ass off. He'll improv, just start breaking everyone's balls. He'll just walk around the room destroying everybody, and they're just dying laughing. And he does everything where it's like hysterically inappropriate, but no one quite gets offended, or he's like too funny for people to be mad.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, we're like, hey, Brad, I know we didn't tell you to prepare anything to MC for this event, but here's the mic. He's like, I got this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So we always we run open bar pre-parties for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We get some celebrities. We have like a turbo tournament. Starts at like 5 to 7 o'clock. Is usually over by midnight so that everyone can get plenty of sleep and play the main event the next day.
Yeah.
We run it like the night before the Hard Rock 5K 5 million in August, the night before WPTs at Borgata, and during one of the starting flights of the World Series main event.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yep. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot more stressful and a lot more work than I thought it was. I'm finally expanding. Got Lexi Gavin as our new vice president of marketing. I'm teaching her how to do all the things I don't want to do anymore. All the tedious groundwork. But we're also doing this event for a volunteer organization she's involved with called Support the Kid. It's a children's cancer charity, and it's all volunteer based, so all the money goes to helping children and research. So it's a good cause, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Take that, older brother.
Take that, older brother. Now you're just a psychologist helping people with their lives while
One at a time?
While I get drunk and play poker. But actually, my brother came and played his first major tournament at the last charity series of poker event at Borgata and cashed with me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're at the same table for a big chunk of it.
Wait, you said cash with me.
He bluffed Vanessa Selbst and put Vanessa Selbst literally on tilt.
Really?
Like, I couldn't believe Vanessa cared about this hand. But she had like bet and bombed river on like an ace 5-5-8-8 board or something. And my brother just like ripped with like playing the board on the river after she bombed the river. She like less than min raised all in as a bluff. And like
in a spot where he had to have it.
Yeah. And I'm so impressed / shocked that my brother did it. But he was just like, well, I thought she had nothing, so I shoved.
I'm not surprised that she cared. She takes every hand very seriously.
In a $300 drunken charity tournament, I thought she was going to care
lost
less.
like $600 to me at a 1-2 table at the Borgata. In a spot where she barreled all the streets, and I just had the toppest of pairs.
The toppest?
The toppest of
she
pairs. She
thought you would fold the toppest of pairs?
Of course.
You're a media guy. She thinks she can get you to fold top pair?
I think I disguised the strength of my hand very well. So I will give myself some credit there. My check call game is on point, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that loose, passive,
But
trappy.
She was very upset that I called the river.
Hashtag got him.
She was very upset that I called. And I said, I had to remind her that... she's very good at poker, and I'm not.
Yeah, that is one of the problems. Just like you can't bluff a bad player, like the most basic strategies. Just going back to like Doyle-isms from Super System.
We're very curious by nature. We're going to call, guys.
It's true. We kind of want to see cards. That's why we came. We didn't want to just call, fold.
Speaking of the media, what is the most frustrating thing you've read about yourself in the media? If anything.
You guys are really good to me. I mean, I don't think
that's changing now.
Like, I've had other players and stuff and random trolls say things like horrible things on Twitter, but I literally can't think of a time where the media ever said anything about me that I was annoyed about. I've actually,
I could be something negative, but it could be something even completely like innocuous, like they got your hometown wrong, or.
Like I care.
They said that you were really into checkers as a kid when we all know it was chess.
This reminds me of one time when someone, I forgot his last name, black kid named Matt who worked for Poker News was doing World Series tournament reporting.
I know him as Matt. I don't know his last name.
So like 5 years ago or something, he came up to me after I won a big pot, like early mid stages of a World Series event. He's like, "Excuse me, can I get your name?" I was like, "Matt Stout." He's like, oh, sorry. I was like, "What? Like, I don't expect you to remember all of us, man. Like, I don't have that, like..."
Okay, to be fair to Matt, there are some prima donnas in the poker world who, if you ask them their name once, they will get upset. If I ask you your name 6 times, that's my bad. Feel free to let loose on me.
Yeah, just like in real life.
Yeah.
No, I remember one. I mean, I won't say his name because I've already said this publicly and he seemed a little pissed. But there's someone who lost like a huge pot in a World Series event, medium to huge. And it wasn't like real deep in the event, but obviously it's still a little annoying. And like I think it was Matt who came up to him and was like, "Excuse me, can I get your name?" And he goes, "Google me, bitch." Like literally just permanently changed my perception of that very well-known player. So that's kind of an insight to like why I think the media has always been so good to me. Like they never write a bad word about me because I'm never a dick to them. Like,
okay.
I've sort of found that the poker media tend to be a lot of like the most like laid back chill people on the tour, so it's kind of worked to my advantage. Like I didn't even realize early in my career like how much just like chatting with them because they were the cool people that were around weren't always like pissy and focused and like about poker. Like, I don't know. So I ended up being friendly with like a lot of poker media guys from the beginning. And even when I was younger and a little more hot-headed and I would like get into it with people like Al Barry at the table, they would paint the whole picture as like Al being a huge douche and me being a nice guy, even when I'd gotten pretty out of line. So that was one of the things that I think back
Poor
to. And
Al.
I'm just like, they did like Poker News did this whole video story like of the back and forth between us, and they left out the parts where I had gotten a little out of line and was saying some inappropriate things at the table.
Wait.
They just made him look
Al
really bad.
Barbieri or Alan Berry?
Alan Barry.
Alan Berry, okay. I mean, they're both East Coast guys.
Yeah. So that was like one of those things where I was like, hey, I probably should have come off looking a lot worse than I did here. But it seems like the media has really got my back.
Well, you deserve it, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. I don't even know how to take that. I still feel like it's like 50% sarcastic and 50% legitimate.
Good. I want you to
It feels
live
like
in
it's
that
fair
space.
and balanced reporting.
Yeah, I want you to live in that space of uncertainty.
I do, sir. I do.
So you've obviously been interviewed by non-poker media before, right? For charity series of poker, like hometown papers or stuff like that, or even like idiots on the rail who don't know anything about poker. What's the weirdest question you've ever gotten about poker from a non-poker person? Anything come to mind like that?
I'm trying to think. I would say that the thing that bothers me the most is just like when I tell someone that I play poker for a living and they're like, do you make money at it?
Yeah.
Like, am I standing before you in like tattered, torn clothes holding out a friggin' cup? Like,
Yeah. Well,
like if I told you that
around a picture of your 600-inch TV.
it's not 600 inches, it's only 150 inches.
Yeah.
It's small compared to a 600-inch TV. And it's a projector screen. It's not a TV.
I seem to remember. Didn't you have a projector screen upstairs too?
No. Why do you remember all kinds of things about my upstairs that don't exist?
It's been a long time since I partied here.
It's true. Fair enough. Yeah, like I don't mind most of like the naive, dumb questions that people ask. I get that. Like, I feel the same way when I'm asking someone about like day trading, hedge funds. Like, I don't know how not to sound stupid. I don't even know how to ask a question that isn't going to come off as like ignorant and uninformed. So I get how it feels to be on the other end there, and I don't get annoyed if people are asking like questions that don't make sense or get poker confused with blackjack.
God,
like
you're such
the
a
poker
good
confused with
person.
blackjack is like kind of funny. So
I know,
like,
but,
oh,
like-
so you count cards?
Like literally, the fact that you're just like being an empathetic person right now is just like
Infuriating to you?
Yeah, just like
I've
Stop
grown up
being
and figured
such a
out what
good person.
empathy is like. Like, it took me a long time to empathize. I think my favorite spot for empathy is when I have to, like, someone who speaks, like, especially when they speak fairly good English, but are always like, oh, I'm sorry, my English is bad. It's like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah,
don't
the-
worry,
the
my
very
German
apologetic
is way
foreigner,
worse
yeah.
than your English. like my French, my Spanish, like, it's
Yeah.
nothing compared to your English. So you should probably just be proud that you know more than one language instead of, like, feeling ashamed and embarrassed that you don't know how to speak the language perfectly.
I'm gonna live I can't promise the rest of the week even, but I'm gonna live the rest of my day the Matt Stout way. I really will.
I'm telling you, like, I'm still an asshole. I swear, like,
I have an interview after this, so I might have to change my perspective. But
there's a really
until then,
there's a really, really good meme that I saw the other day. It was just like a rough outline stick figure-ish sketch of a person that's like, do, always be kind. Like, you never know what someone's going through, so always be nice to people. And it's like, it says above it, me. And then on the other side of the thing, it has like the same figure standing behind somebody. It's like, and it says, if you don't start walking faster, I'm going to kill you and everything you love. And it says, also me.
like Jekyll and Hyde of your own head.
So yeah, I mean, I sound empathetic right now, but I'm sure there's plenty of spots where I'm still a huge dick.
All right.
So yeah, it's just the do you make money ad that really grinds my gears.
Yeah.
They're like, if they're looking at me and like, I feel like that's like a statement about like my appearance, their
Yeah.
expectation that I'm broke.
Wait,
like,
you make money at this?
Like, you make money at it? Like, or
You? Of all people?
You?
I just
You.
assumed you'd be wearing a suit and carrying a metal briefcase of some kind.
Yeah, like I get that that even asking that question stems from a lack of understanding that like you can be profitable in poker, have edges in poker.
All right.
But at the same
Mr.
time, like
Caring.
if someone tells you they do something for a living, instead of asking if they make money at it, you should probably be like, how is it possible to make money at it? Like
How
so
does
it's like,
one go about that?
so you see what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be empathetic when they say, "Do you make money at it?" Because I'm going to take it personally and
Yeah.
like have them like, how stupid do you think I am? Do you think I like took a job where I make negative $15K a year? Like, it seems like a bad strategy.
You just described a lot of poker players, though. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of denial in the world. Those people wouldn't admit to it if asked the question, but there are plenty of people making negative $15K a year right now in the poker world.
You gotta love how variance and volatility helps people justify so much and disillusion themselves so much.
My big year's coming.
My big year's coming.
I won't live to see it, but it's coming.
Yeah, I'm due.
All right.
Due is my favorite word in poker. Like, those are the people that just decide their red-black bets based on history. I think they have an edge.
What's the wheel? Has the wheel been hot? Is
Yeah.
it all red? Favorite poker destination?
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
It's close between Melbourne and
God,
Barcelona.
Every time somebody says Melbourne, I do that obnoxious Australian accent.
Yeah, just
I
don't do that
apologize so
anymore.
much.
Can we move on?
I don't think I can. I can't help it.
Yeah. I only went once in 2008 and made a deep run in the main event. It was my favorite poker trip ever, and yet I still haven't gone back, which is pretty absurd. I can just never get myself to pull the trigger to pay over $2,000 for a round trip flight that I really don't want to go on.
You hear that? Somebody put up Matt in Australia.
It's like they would
He
all
give you 80% of his winnings in
No.
exchange for a plane ticket.
maybe, but but they would also have to fly for me and get my body to show up in Australia without taking a 15-hour flight.
It's brutal.
It's really absurd.
I don't even like flying back home to Miami. Like, that's 5 hours, and I'm just like, ugh, I'm going to take my shoes off.
Oh yeah, I always take my shoes off. I'm always like stuck having to wait until everyone gets off the plane because I like after everyone else gets out of my way, I can finally like get my shoes back on,
Yeah.
take my time. I just
You
saunter
moved
off the
in.
plane. Last guy, yeah, I'm chilling.
You moved in.
I'm laxed.
Who's the best poker player we've never heard of? The collective we. Anybody?
God, I want to say Gordon Vayo, but people know who he is now. But then there'll be the haters who are like, "Oh, he's the worst." He's like,
Why is he the worst?
Well, because he lost to Qui Win heads up. So.
Because he
No,
failed.
I mean,
Because he failed to adjust a little bit during heads up play. His
I
strategy.
mean, I would
clearly
say
got
he
him a lot of money.
over-adjusted.
Okay.
The plan was to play tight against Queen and pick him off, but then he forgot to pick him off.
Yeah.
With the Queen 9 especially. That's like the one hand that was the turning point. I've discussed all this with Gordon too. I waited a couple weeks,
Oh, I'm
like
sure
tested
he'd
the
love
waters
to
to see if I
relive
could
it.
talk to him about it yet.
Was he kind of itching to talk about it? I bet he kind of was, because I bet everyone avoided him to talk about it.
But I've been talking hands with him for several years. But I still felt like there was still going to be a period of time that he wasn't going to be ready to talk about it. And like I made a joke about, if that time is never hit me back about it. But then like poked a little more and we started talking about the hands and stuff. But I mean, he takes it so well. He made that tweet after Hillary Clinton lost the election, something along the lines of, I can't believe it only took a week for someone to choke harder than I did.
Oh man.
That got infinite retweets and likes, and I talked to him about that, and he's like, "Yeah, I had deactivated my Twitter and hadn't logged in since the final table just because I couldn't take it, but." I logged in and reactivated just to make that tweet, and I still didn't look at anything.
Yeah.
And someone just showed me when it had gotten to like 500 likes and 150 retweets or something. So he's self-deprecating, takes it well. He would have been the one that I would pick. And now I'm trying to think. I would say that John Borenstein might be one of them.
Okay. John would be a good candidate for an under the radar type of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think that there's always like this crew of East Coast grinders like working together, talking through hands, getting better and better. Asher was one of them. I would have picked Asher. Asher and Gordon would have been two of the ones that I would have said as my answer to this before they all had like their live breakout and got a little more notoriety. But I will go with John Borenstein as my next pick to like snap something huge off. Like he final tabled Colossus, but he took like 9th. That was like
that is a count.
He was
John.
So close. Like no one's gonna remember that.
8 spots short of John.
So I can still use John because he didn't like top 3 Colossus.
Yeah.
If he top 3, maybe 4 or 5, I wouldn't be able to use him. So I'm gonna go with J-Bo.
Okay. Worst regular job before poker.
Barney Stock Shops in New Jersey, or in Bayonne, New Jersey. I was
Barney's
a
like
stock
the clothing
clerk.
store?
No, so much worse. Just like a old, creepy, pedophile-ish Jewish guy named Mel Stock. His father was Barney Stock, who had
Barney Stock?
The Barney Stock. Who had made this like women's clothing store? It's mostly like bras and panties and stuff.
Oh my
like,
gosh!
Oh yeah, it's
this
awful.
sounds like the creepiest place on earth.
Wait, it's gonna get so much worse. He hired. Well, there are the benefits and drawbacks. The benefit is he hires all the hottest girls from like the Catholic high school, and like
oh my gosh.
It's awful. It's straight up awful.
I can see why young Matt Stout wanted to work there.
Well, it's one of the only places in Bayonne that would hire people who were 13, and I had huge turnover because
you were 13?
13, 14.
Oh my god!
Yeah. So there was huge turnover because like everyone
was
hated this
15.
guy. And once the girls turned 17, they were too old for
exactly.
Mel. And like he, I don't know, like he is just such a weird dude. And then it was just an awful job where I'm getting minimum wage. The job sucks, and then the real tipping point that made it far and above any other job in terms of terribleness. We had the hometown fair every year, which was on Broadway in Bayonne, and all kinds of carnival games, booths, blah blah blah. And it's on the street where the store is. So he has this big storefront display of bras and panties and stuff. And at one point during the hometown fair, while all of my friends are walking by, I have to go like fix up the bras and panties that have been rifled through. And like,
and you're just like,
and I'm just like,
in the storefront, like
I'm just like standing out front of the store with women's panties and bras in my hand while all my friends are making fun of me. It was epic. Just. It was a good motivator to show me how little I would like to have a job or a boss in my life. It was one of those things where...
Especially one like Barney's son, Mel? Is that what you said his name was?
Yeah, Mel Stock. Mel Stock. What a creepy old man he was, let me tell you. Ugh.
He's dead now, right?
I think he's still alive. I went in there a few years ago and I walked past and like saw him in there. I was like, ugh.
Do you think
At
he's
least
a big
I was
fan
safe.
of poker podcasts?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's going to get back to him.
Yeah, I don't care. I think he knows that he's like a creepy, borderline pedophile-ish, scary human being.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to music. You got your headphones on at the table, which I don't know if you do that or not. I can't seem to remember if you're a headphone guy or not.
I always have them, but like I've been listening to them less and less.
Are you like a one ear and not kind of guy?
Yeah, if I'm not in a bad mood, I'm only gonna have them on one ear. If I have them on, I need to hear player actions. I need to hear dealers saying things.
Oh, you ever have them on, but they're not turned on, and like,
oh yeah,
you're just
that's
listening.
That's partly if I'm in a bad mood too, and like I don't want people to talk to me. Like if I'm on tilt, like both headphones are on, like leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah. No, but I mean like you're not playing music either.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes where like I
You're
just
like a
have them on
spy.
because I don't want people to talk to me, even though I'm not playing music. But then I'll reply to something and it's blow my cover.
Oh, he was too interesting. I couldn't resist. So okay, so you're listening to music. What are you playing? I'm gonna guess Springsteen.
Oh, of course.
Being
Good
from New
read.
Jersey.
Good read.
Isn't it a law? You have to.
If you're from Jersey, you just have to listen to Springsteen at least like 60% of the time that you have your headphones on. That is actually the rule. Let's see. I would say mostly rap nowadays. But like most rap also sucks nowadays, so I'm kind of in a tough spot. I
You're
listen.
not being fulfilled musically.
Yeah, my needs aren't being met. I listen to a lot of old stuff, like the current people that I can actually that I really respect and like are Kendrick Lamar and Kid Cudi. I would say are like the top two. I listen to tons of Talib Kweli, Mos Def. Then
So you're not
obviously
going
like
too
the
far
old school
back.
rap legends like Pac, Biggie, Nas, Jay Z,
Okay.
Mac Dre, Big L. Like there's a lot of like the old school influence that I like to go back to. I would like much rather listen to most old school rap than listen to the current stuff. Like Kevin Gates is like one of the current examples of like I like some of his songs and the lyrics, but like he's not that musically gifted, I don't think, and he's just it's like the best I'm getting is like I Don't Get Tired and like Perfect Imperfection nowadays out of like the new rappers for the most part. So it's a little disappointing. I still listen
tools,
to
I think. Too many tools to fix noise or alter noise or music, I should
For
say.
sure.
So that talent isn't really the concern anymore.
Yeah, I think there's and I don't know. I guess there's just not that much going on nowadays. Like the music, I got so sick of music recently. I started listening to a lot of stand up, like a ton of it. Like I'll just put my favorite.
More.
I put my favorite stand up artists in Pandora just to start finding
All right,
more.
let's trade stand-ups until we get one that we both agree on there. Who's your favorite?
Matt
now?
Bronger.
You like Matt Bronger?
He's so good.
Okay, I like Matt Bronger.
Shovel fighter. When I was a shovel fighter in the Ukraine.
Okay, if you like Matt Bronger, you might like what's his name from the Florida State alum, Bert Kreischer. You should look up Bert Kreischer.
I'm writing this down. How do I spell that? Well, I guess we can do that after.
Do that later. But for the listeners, BertKreischer. I also really like Hannibal Buress.
Hannibal, I almost said him first instead of saying Bronger, but a lot of Bronger stuff has been stuck in my head. Yeah, I had to go more obscure. I had to be like a little hipsterish about it, even though he has a Netflix. He's pretty mainstream. Yeah. He's on Spotify. It's not hipsterish at all.
Everyone should be on Spotify. This podcast will be on Spotify pretty soon.
What about Steve Rannazzasi?
Does he do stand-up?
From the league? Yeah, he does great stand-up.
He got in a lot of trouble over some 9/11 comments he made.
That's not surprising at all. Yeah. Go listen to his bit about the pizza delivery guy.
Okay. I didn't know he did stand-up. I'll have to check it out.
He does really good stand-up. It's on Spotify.
Perfect.
He has like 2 albums on Spotify, and both of them are really, really funny.
I also like Pete Holmes, Kumail Nanjiani.
Yeah, Kumail, my brother just got me into. Who was the other one? Pete Holmes?
Pete Holmes, yeah. He's good. Anyway, that's Comedy Hour with Julio and Matt.
Colin Quinn has a new special. He does some stand-up, very New York-based, too. It's all like making fun of New York.
He can't be any other way, though.
Yeah, he's so good. Pretty damn hysterical. I also still listen to like a lot of like the stuff I grew up on was more like rock and stuff. I listened to a lot of like Kid Rock, Incubus, System of a Down, Tool. That's the stuff I grew up on and still like
Puddle
really
of
love.
Mud.
Stained. Puddle of Mud's okay. Stained's pretty good.
Okay. That was more my
I see you mocking me.
My high school, college days as well.
Yeah.
You ready for the fun one? The random question generator.
Oh Jesus!
So we just look.
You have an app for this?
No, it's the website. This is the standard question it starts with, and I'm gonna press the button so you can witness it. I'm gonna press the button. This is great podcast, Julio.
Is this the last question?
Yeah, this is the last one. Good. I don't have any service.
I gotta leave in 10 minutes anyway. I felt like this is dragging on a bit, and I'm sure the listeners agree.
Well, that's your fault for talking.
How dare I talk when you interview me? You want me to give one-word answers next time?
Yeah, probably.
All right. That's nice.
All right, here we go. Damn it. Okay, I'm gonna change this question. If you were given a one wish, what would you wish for?
More wishes. Come on, you got to give me a better question than that. Because people that understand game theory know how to work that question.
This one's offensive. No. It says, would you rather be blind or deaf?
That's not that offensive.
They then both said something pretty offensive.
my
Oh
God.
God, that was awful.
No, edited that
Can we
out.
edit that one out?
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't mean that at all either. Like,
This one might get political. How do you think the world will end?
the world will end with Donald Trump tweeting something, of course.
Oh my God, you just lost 50% of your fans.
I don't care. I mean, I think even the people who voted for Trump and are Trump supporters understand that there's a decent chance that one of his tweets is going to end the world in the next 4 years.
All right, I'm going to give you one real question. Do you keep a journal?
No.
Or have you
I
ever
have
kept a
poker
journal?
I used to keep a journal, but then I realized how screwed up my brain was, and I decided.
You're not supposed to reread it.
Yeah, you are.
It's like a letter you never send to yourself.
Really? Is that how it's supposed to work?
It's more the process of writing it down is therapeutic. If you go back and read it, that's a nightmare. Maybe turn them into your therapist.
My only... Forgot where I was going with that. My brain just totally spaced. Good thing you can edit.
It's all good. It's all good. Oh, Matt, thank you so much for letting me into your house.
I still can't believe I let you into my house.
I know, and it was so much
Should have
fun.
made you meet me at Starbucks.
It was so much fun watching Avatar, your favorite movie, on your 600-inch TV.
It's funny that you're making fun of me and saying that, even though I don't even own Avatar. But that is one of the movies that I think of when I'm like, why should I have 150-inch projector?
It's the only way to justify it.
No, NHL. I watch tons and tons of hockey.
Oh yeah.
When the screen's 150 inches, the puck is 6 inches wide. We can actually see the puck.
I liked it in the old days when they highlighted the puck behind the boards. I bet you hated that.
Hated it.
Yeah, you're a purist.
You're trying to turn NHL into a
All right,
cartoon.
well, let's go outside. And
The
talk
little
about
comet was so much worse. Like the blue blip was one thing, but when they put a little comet tail, when the puck was going over 80 miles an hour, that was out of control.
Visible
stupid
puck jet stream going on behind.
I respect that they tried to overcome one of the NHL's barrier to gaining new fans and everything, but no, don't put a goddamn comet on our puck. I couldn't even watch it. It was painful.
On that note, we're out.
NHL purists hated it. And I have my only tattoo is the Rangers shield on my right arm. So if that tells you anything about how I feel about hockey. All right, I'll shut up. Can we close this out?
We're done.
Bye, everyone.
That's our show this week. Thanks again to Matt Stout for the chat. He's on Twitter with the handle @MattStoutPoker. And you should take a moment to check out the charity series of poker to see if you can make it out to the next event and support a great cause. I also want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen. Make sure you visit cardplayer.com for more poker stories soon.